Today, Precarious plays Metroid Prime 2, Echoes. Oh, wait. So that... No, you just take the elevator up to get to that key.
Mm-hmm.
From down there. Mm-hmm. Okay, so at least it wasn't a total waste. It's just that feels a little misleading. Actually, can we start with that? Just because I think that it's an interesting point of friction.
Mm-hmm.
So I went here in the light world and then was a little disappointed. And now I see my mistake, right? Like, I think that this is the kind of thing where it's a little annoying because I don't think I would have... If I weren't trying to divide my attention between playing and talking, I think I would have noticed the little down arrow.
Yeah.
But I didn't, obviously.
Yep.
So those two are connected, and then I realized, like, oh, well, duh, this must be connected as well, even without the little arrow. So it wasn't a total waste because it gave me the little bit of cognitive focus, the little push to be like, think about it like a place for a minute. So if they're always connected, yeah, if the light world and the dark world mirror one another. I think now I know
I'm just still really disappointed about that box that you're standing on.
Why didn't screw attack activate? Maybe I was going too much to the side. Oh, well.
You got there. You just had to pay. You had to pay a toll.
Do you? Hold on. I'm at 60, 58, 7. I don't know. I don't know if you do.
Huh. You should jump off things more often.
It would be a little interesting to try to exploit that, to jump off of something instead of being damaged by a bigger threat.
Yeah.
Or you could just, not do either, but...
Well, that's something to keep in mind. I'm not entirely opposed to exploits like that.
Yeah, speaking of exploits, that's what I wanted to wrap this up, the conversation about Bannerlord. I want to just get this game out of my life. I want to beat it. I want to beat the main campaign and then say, like, I did it, and then banish it to the depths of my Steam library and not think about it again for a long time. But so whenever I said that I got to a point where the game was satisfying, that eventually fell off as my empire expanded, right? And it really fell flat on its face when I get spoilers for the Bannerlord campaign, I guess. Right now, I'm actually thinking about, like, cheating.
Yeah.
They've pushed too hard and not given enough in return. I'm actually considering cheating because they give you an objective which seems very sensible, given the content, right? It's like, okay, you need to, because of who I decided to back in the Civil War, it was like, you need to control X number of settlements that have imperial culture.
Okay.
So basically, like, Rome. You need to control X number of Roman cities. And as soon as I hoovered up the last one, well, no, I should explain the conspiracy. So shortly after introducing that objective, they introduce a recurring sort of time pressure quest where the person you didn't back in the Civil War, they start trying to raise armies against you. And it's represented by this conspiracy tracker, which is it's, I think, a number out of 2,000 that starts at 1,000 and then slowly ticks up. And then there are quests that if you do them, it takes a big chunk back out, but if you fail them, then it adds a big chunk. And if it hits 2,000, something bad happens. Well, what I didn't know is that whenever you fulfill the settlement controlled requirement, the conspiracy just completes instantly anyway. So I did a really good job as I was building up my empire of fighting back the conspiracy, and it was down to like 700, I think. Mm-hmm. And then I got the last town that I needed, and then it was like,
poof.
Your enemies are allied against you. Eat shit. And it felt like such a bad DMing moment that, well, first off, I immediately was like, well, shit, man. No, I did not. I thought I was prepared, but I was not prepared enough to fight basically like the two other great powers left in the game simultaneously.
Without warning.
Yeah. Especially because it's complete nonsense. Like, no reasonable person would be like, oh yeah, well, the conspiracy that you've been fighting, as soon as you hit this arbitrary threshold, it immediately like ratchets up against you. Mm-hmm. And I rolled back to an earlier save. So I now am back beneath the threshold, right?
And now you're going to be very careful about when you do that.
Yeah, or because it's such a slap in the face, I might just cheat. Mm-hmm. I might just cheat.
What do you mean by cheat?
Just cheat? There are mods. There are tons of mods that I've avoided until now because I wanted to know what the vanilla game ended up being.
If you know, whenever you're having a bad time at a something, it's like, okay, well, let's really absorb this and try to understand what the bad time is before I try to doctor it up and then pretend I had a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that a very succinct description that I saw in a Steam review for Bannerlord was... I thought I bought a pizza, but I basically just paid for dough.
Yeah.
And
but there are toppings.
Yeah, but the mods are the cheese. The mods, it's the sauce. The mods are the pepperoni for a lot of people. And I'm feeling similarly. I also, too, thank you, wise Steam reviewer. I, too, feel like I just bought dough. Mm-hmm. So you go from... You go sort of from, it's supposed to be like this moment of triumph because it's not easy. It's time consuming just to get that far, you know, to gather up all of those towns. And then, like, I can see it, right? I know what's going to happen. It's just this example of rubber banding. Way too much of Bannerlord's, you could probably argue, like, the layer of gameplay above armies fighting. It's just this ponderous rubber banding experience where like it's just you have to find ways to achieve decisive crushing victories. Or so here's the problem. Here's one of the big problems with the game. It feels fair. Like if you were to ask someone, if you were to lay out the rules and then say like, is this fair? Then they would do a butterfly meme. And then they would say like, yeah, that seems fair, right? Every army has access to like, you can all go recruit the same people and you raise up your troops the same way. And it's like you all have the same stats and you all have the same core functions and can interact with towns in the same way. That all feels fair, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not. It never is. It's stacked against you from the very start because you're a person playing the game and you have to expend time. You have to work hard to get your units, and then the AI just goes beep boop and then has
we got them.
Yeah. So
you got those people. Here's the counter. We went ahead and picked it up from the store in a can.
Anytime there's just a big numbers game, it favors basically like the more lengthy the experience, the more it just sort of naturally favors the AI because
they're just trying to wear you out.
Yeah, the AI is never gonna get bored.
Yeah.
But you as a person playing the game, you might get bored. And that's just sort of what it feels like. It's not just you against a number of unrelated, independent forces, you know? It might feel like, okay, in this individual battle, this is fair. We each have 800 people fighting for us, and they are similarly competent, right? Mm-hmm. But that's not true, because it's never just you against those 800 people. It's against this group of 800 and the next group of 800. And you know what? If you really stop and look at it, you're also effectively playing against the 400 people that one of your vassals has recruited. Because they'll run off and get themselves killed and ruin your... they'll run off and get themselves killed, and it will give the AI... it'll give the AI leverage over you. Okay, let me take a second to calm my mind. And I don't want to talk about Bannerlord anymore. So, real quick, right at the end, despite what I said, where it's like, oh yeah, I eventually found a way to have a good time, it is arguable that I had to abuse the game to do that. There are two things that you could easily view as exploits, and I used both of them to get to that point. First off, it requires a ton of money to have a successful kingdom, right? And to get my fortune, I abused the shit out of the crafting system to take iron that I pulled off of roving bandits and just forging it and reforging it until it ended up being like fine steel, which I then dumped into weapons that each sell for like 20,000 banner bucks a piece. Mm-hmm. And you do that en masse. You go out and the bandit groups get so large where it's like you'll fight 55 of them at once, come back to town with a pile of pitchforks and hatchets and shit. You break all of that down, forge it into really good weapons, and basically you alchemize bandits into enormous profits. And it's kind of ridiculous, but it's like the best way I found to make money really rapidly, you know? Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is there's a very curious quirk where as long as you do not declare yourself a kingdom, kingdoms can't declare war on you as the player. It's one of the few little sort of like player side protections where things are asymmetrical, because you can always go declare war on a kingdom, but other kingdoms can't retaliate, even after you start accumulating lands, at least until you say, hey, I'm a kingdom now, and that gives its own benefits, so it is something that you eventually want to do. Otherwise, it's going to be hell trying to manage things, even worse trying to manage things. But I, through a combination of selectively declaring wars on a larger power and just exploiting political strife to target settlements that rebelled against their owners, and where it's free real estate. If I take it, it's mine, and you can't declare war on me to get it back. I exploited that fact to get a little portfolio of 2 towns and 2 castles, and I stocked each of them with a garrison. And then I used all of the excessive profits from smithing to pay for those garrisons without a proper kingdom's worth of income. So you see how this sounds? It's nonsense, right?
Yeah, it feels very much like a scheme, but like even more than a scheme that would take place during this time.
It doesn't even feel like a game mechanic. It feels like like I'm exploiting the simulation. So, because they could have designed around it. So here's a quick example that I might have mentioned before, but it's just like, as part of the main quest of the main campaign, just create a quest that gives you a castle somewhere or gives you a town somewhere. Just engineer a scenario where one of the lords is indebted to you and they just give you a holding, basically like a kingdom starter set. That would be like a more appropriate bit of game design. But instead here I had to essentially like make that for myself, because again, it's not like it's just going to be a slog any other way. It's just going to be this like, I perform this action, I move forward 3 inches and then get pushed an inch back. I move forward 2 inches and then get pushed 2 inches back. I did it. I moved forward 5 whole inches. Oops, I just got pushed 4 inches back. That's what Bannerlord's main campaign feels like.